Happy Easter. On this Easter Sunday, I want to share with you a reflection from one of my favorite authors, Richard Beck. It's in his book, Slavery to the Fear of Death. Here is the quote. The power of death that the devil wields is characterized as a slavery to the fear of death. It is not death per se that gives the devil power. It is rather the fear of death. It is this fear that creates the satanic influence, a fear that tempts us into sinful practices and lifestyles, a fear that keeps us demonically possessed in our idolatrous service to the principalities and powers. Salvation, and I would add resurrection, involves liberation from this fear. Salvation is emancipation for those who have been enslaved all of their lives by the fear of death. Salvation is a deliverance that sets us free from this power of the devil. What might be the sign of this liberation? In the biblical imagination, the antithesis of fear is love. Freedom from the fear of death makes love possible. As it says in 1 John 4:18, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. Where fear is a symptom of death, love becomes a sign of resurrection. Anyone who does not love remains in death. Where we find fear and death on one side, we find love and resurrection on the other. You see, when we become free from the fear of death, and I struggle with that fear, and I know many of you do, the fear of death is seen in our lives when we strive to make a legacy and a name for ourselves, when we want to put ourselves out on top and make ourselves number one. We do that, and it causes anxiety, it causes depression, it causes hopelessness. But when we set aside that fear of death by living into a resurrection life, by living into the resurrection of this one we call Jesus, when we set that fear aside, it empowers us to love others. It empowers us to love our neighbor. It empowers us to love our enemy. It empowers us to speak out for the least of these, those who are hurting, those whom we might not normally associate ourselves with. This is the power of love, and that is the power of resurrection. Happy Easter.